I'm gonna have my mom come live with us.
What? What do you mean by that? You can't mean she's moving in with us, right?
Yeah, she is. It's fine, isn't it? You're gonna be super busy soon and won't have time for housework, right? So I'm having my mom come help.
Why did you decide this all of a sudden without asking me? This wasn't what we agreed on. Are you just gonna make decisions on your own again? Don't be ridiculous. Who do you think is paying for everything? You better listen to the guy who's paying $10,000 in rent. Because I'm the one paying the rent, you can live here. So, it doesn't matter to you if I bring my mom in or not. How can you say something like that?
He broke his promise from before we got married and suddenly said we were gonna live with his mother. He doesn't listen to me and has some misunderstandings, making him even more aggressive towards me. His mother is also on his side, and they both attack me together. Finally, he said, I want a divorce. My husband asked for a divorce. Of course, I couldn't be happier. But before that, I needed to correct his misunderstanding and tell him a certain fact.
Could you talk to the real estate agent? I think if we negotiate, we can get the rent lower than $10,000.
What?
The rent is $100,000? There's no way that's changing.
If we continue this conversation, he's definitely gonna regret it. My name is Mila. I'm 42 years old and the CEO of an IT company. At my company, we mainly develop embedded systems that control computers in home appliances and industrial machines. We're quite successful because we have technology that integrates AI, riding the wave of the times. I say so myself, but I think we're doing pretty well. I started my own business at 30 and rent a whole building in the heart of New York City. It's a characteristic of this industry to start young and see results early. The building we rent has 3 floors, and each floor isn't that spacious. So, even though I say we're successful, as a company, we still have a long way to go, and I'm working hard every day to expand. Tom always supported me.
Are you going back to work after eating this?
Yeah, there's something I really need to finish by tomorrow.
Are you okay?
You've been almost pulling all-nighters recently. Even if I tell you to take a break, you don't listen. You know me well. I should learn from you and work harder too. But don't overdo it. After eating the salad and pasta Tom made for me and drinking water quickly, I went straight back to the office. Tom is 37 years old. Like me, he's also a business owner and runs a cafe bar in the business district. It's always bustling with lunch during the day and people coming in after work at night, making it a huge success. Tom's personality can be summed up in one word: show off. He buys flashy clothes and watches and drives nice cars. He says, I have to be mindful of how I'm seen because I run a place, but I think it's just his personal taste and hobby. Since he's buying what he likes within his income, he should do as he pleases. But sometimes, his excuses for buying what he likes make him seem a bit childish. In fact, Tom is 5 years younger than me, but he seems even more childlike than his age, which I find endearing. And he's pretty proud. Even when he's wrong, he never apologizes. So, when we argue, I'm usually the one who has to give in. But honestly, I'm just as proud, so I can't really criticize Tom. People often think we've been married a long time because I'm 42 and Tom is 37, but we've only been married for 6 months. Both Tom and I were so focused on our careers that we didn't really date until we met. I had almost given up on getting married, but we met when I randomly walked into his cafe bar, started dating, and eventually got married. Everything went smoothly up to the wedding, but there was something I needed to confirm before we tied the knot.
Hey, Tom. Can I ask you something? Your mom lives alone, right?
Yeah, she does.
She's been living alone since Dad passed away 3 years ago.
Why do you ask?
Well, I just need to confirm something. You know I run a company, right? So, I want to stay focused on my work.
Yeah, and?
I'd like to avoid living with your mom if possible.
Of course, if she gets sick, injured, or becomes elderly and needs care, that's different. But right now, the place I live in is a bit unique, so moving in together right after getting married would be tough.
The cafe bar was quiet since it was just Tom and me after closing. I waited for Tom to respond in the silence, with only the sounds of him closing up.
Living with Mom? Why are you worried about that?
Tom looked puzzled.
Well, you mentioned that you're the only one who can take care of her. So, I thought you might be considering living together right after we got married. I want to make sure I'm thinking about her future as part of the family too.
I spoke while looking down. Tom laughed and said, "You're overthinking it. I'm not planning on that right now. I have my work too, so it's not possible." Mila, you're too serious.
Really? Yeah, and Mom's just over 60 and still pretty active. Her place is only about an hour and a half away by train, so she's not that far. She'll be happy if we visit a few times a year.
Tom continued to wash the dishes, smiling and not looking at me. I was prepared for Tom to think I was being cold-hearted, but it didn't seem like a big deal to him. Knowing I could still focus on my work, I felt relieved and ready to get married. After we got married, Tom moved out of his apartment and into my place. There was a reason for this move. My place is a bit special. Sorry about this.
Huh? Why? This place is awesome. Living in the heart of the city is rare. Plus, my workplace is closer now. There's no problem at all. But the first and second floors are office spaces, so you might run into employees in the elevator. Oh, I don't mind. You need a key to get to the third floor, so that's fine. And if we use the back entrance, we won't run into employees much. But if we do, the employees might feel awkward. I'll be mindful of that.
I wanted to make sure Tom wasn't uncomfortable, but he even said he'd be careful not to make the employees feel awkward. It seemed my concerns were no big deal to him. When we got married, I set some conditions like not living with his mom, and Tom accepted them all with a smile. Because of that, Tom has the right to ask for something in return. When I asked him about his hopes and conditions after marriage, he told me something unexpected.
How much is the rent for this place? Here? I rent the whole building, so I'm not sure about just the living space. But for a similar 3-bedroom place around here, it would be about $10,000 a month. I see. Then I'll give you $10,000 a month for rent. Oh, that's not necessary. The company rents the building, so we can't use that money for the rent. I know. Just save it as our couple's savings. It'll be a relief to have some extra money saved up for emergencies. Isn't $10,000 a month too much to save? You don't have to call it rent. Otherwise, it would feel like I'm being taken care of by you. I want to pay my own rent. And I want to brag about living in a building in the middle of the city.
Tom's expression was like a child throwing a tantrum. His pride was showing. But since the money he gives for rent would be saved, and it made him feel better, there was no harm.
All right, I'll take the $10,000 a month. I'll manage and save it.
After that, Tom started boasting about living in a place with $10,000 rent. He also told people he married an IT company CEO, likely to show that he wasn't freeloading. Pride and appearances can be troublesome. But as a business owner, I understand the need to present yourself well. So, I decided not to say anything about what Tom said outside. However, not saying anything might have been a mistake. Tom's pride and need to show off gradually exceeded my tolerance. 6 months into our marriage, I found myself facing a new problem.
Oh, hello. I made dinner for you. Oh, Mother, you're here. You didn't have to go through the trouble. Don't worry about it. Tom told me you're too busy with work to handle the house chores, right? Well, that's true, but...
When I got home from work, Tom's mom, Arya, was at our place. You can't get into the building without a key, even if you take the stairs. Yet, my mother-in-law was in the house because Tom gave her a key. Though I'm busy with work, I try to keep up with the house chores. Tom must have thought he was helping by asking his mom. She probably did it because Tom asked her to. While I appreciate the help, it doesn't feel good to have someone in the house without notice. More importantly, if Tom was going to give her a key, I wish he had talked to me first. But since neither of them meant any harm, it's hard to bring it up. There was another reason it was hard to bring it up.
Tom is really doing great, isn't he? Running a successful business in the heart of the city. I heard his monthly income is around $30,000? That's impressive. Wait, $30,000? Oh, you didn't know? You two are married, you should talk about these things. That's why Tom is paying the $10,000 rent here, right?
My mother-in-law always praises Tom with a bit of a smug look. However, I tilted my head slightly. While I agree that Tom's cafe is doing well, the figure of $30,000 a month made me skeptical. I've helped with closing a few times and seen the daily totals at the register. Being a business owner myself, I can roughly estimate the revenue based on a day's sales, and from what I've seen, it was hard to believe those numbers. I found my mother-in-law's words puzzling for a moment, but I figured Tom might have exaggerated his income to impress her. If I revealed the truth now, it would hurt both Tom and his mom, and I could end up on bad terms with them. Sometimes, it's best not to reveal everything. For the sake of a smooth family relationship, I decided to keep quiet as usual.
You're amazing too, Mila. Running such a big company downstairs. It must be tough. I'll help with the housework, so you can focus on your job, okay?
I couldn't say anything, so I just smiled and nodded. Since it was hard to speak directly to my mother-in-law, I decided to talk to Tom about it.
Why did you give her the house key without asking me? Have I not been keeping up with the housework?
No, it's not that. I just thought you seemed really busy with work. I want you to focus on growing your company.
I appreciate you thinking about my work, but if you're gonna give her a key, you could have talked to me first.
Sorry. I shouldn't have done that without asking. Tom continued closing up, not looking at me, feeling awkward after being scolded. The sound of mopping echoed through the cafe as our conversation died down. I sat at the counter, gazing blankly at the construction site outside the window, waiting for Tom to finish his work. It seemed Tom reflected on his actions and got the key back from his mom. Although she was just trying to help because Tom asked her, being told to return the key must have upset her. She stopped coming over and contacting us. However, my mother-in-law came with good intentions and had no ill will. I felt I needed to make it up to her somehow. But before I could work on mending things with my mother-in-law, Tom started acting strange again.
Hey, is your company okay? What do you mean? I overheard some employees talking when I came in through the back entrance the other day. They were saying your company might be in trouble. What? Are you saying we're gonna go bankrupt? Where did this come from?
Tom looked at me while putting away the dishes from closing. I tried to smile, but I think my expression was a bit strained. Tom saw my face, continued putting away the dishes in silence, and the sound of dishes clattering filled the cafe. After that, Tom started asking more frequently about my company, even at home. You haven't been at the company much lately, have you? I heard from some of the managers that they've been pushing their work onto their subordinates and running around like crazy. Have you been eavesdropping on the employees again? Stop that. It's not a big deal. It's not eavesdropping. Their conversations just happened to reach my ears. You know, when the CEO and the top brass start scrambling, it's often a sign of impending bankruptcy. Times are tough, and when things start going downhill, it happens fast. I'm telling you, we're not going bankrupt. Then what is it? What have you been doing lately?
Well,
see? You can't say anything. So, we're going under, huh? You won't be the CEO anymore. That's disappointing. Tom left me in the living room and headed to the bedroom. I didn't feel like following him, so I decided to sleep on the couch. A week later, Convinced that my company was about to collapse, Tom's attitude had completely changed.
Here's this month's $10,000 for rent. We agreed not to use the money I give you, right? But if the company's going under, your income is gonna drop significantly, isn't it? You might end up with a huge debt. Since the rent for the building is paid by the company, you can use this $10,000 for living expenses, if your pride allows it.
Instead of depositing the money in the bank as usual, Tom handed me the rent in cash. With a particularly spiteful expression. He then pressed further.
And another thing, I've decided to have Mom come live with us. You're not seriously planning on having her move in, are you?
Yes, I am.
What's the big deal? You're gonna be even busier soon, with no time for housework. So, Mom's coming to help. Why do you always make decisions on your own? This wasn't the agreement. Are you planning to keep making unilateral decisions? Who do you think you are? Who do you think pays for everything here? I pay $10,000 in rent. You live here because of me. So, whether Mom moves in or not isn't up to you. How can you say such things? Well, if the company goes under, we'll have to move out, won't we? It was convenient being close to my shop. And when we do move, you won't be the CEO anymore, right? In that case, there'd be no reason for me to stay with you. I'll have to think about divorce.
Tom continued to mutter complaints about me. I was tempted to tell him the truth, but it wasn't the right time, so I decided to keep quiet. When the truth comes out, I'm sure Tom will apologize. So, I decided to endure this difficult situation for a while. 3 days later, even before talking to me, Tom had already made arrangements, and my mother-in-law showed up at our place. But strangely, she didn't bring much luggage.
Mother.
Really, Mila, I'm disappointed in you.
If I knew this was going to happen, we should have lived together from the start. Is this all your luggage? Tom told me everything, right? We're gonna have to move out of here soon, aren't we? What? So, I left the stuff I won't need in a storage unit. I guess your IT company wasn't much after all. Even if it goes under, don't count on Tom's money.
Because of the key issue, my mother-in-law kept spewing venom at me. While I had some fault regarding the key, it all started with Tom giving it to her without asking me. Yet, somehow, I ended up being the villain. Tom is her pride and joy, so she likely sees everything through a favorable filter. Thus, my mother-in-law moved in with us. Tom's behavior took a turn for the worse.
Hey, future deadbeat. When you're done with work, come help with closing up. I'll give you some pocket money.
Enduring constant verbal abuse from Tom and my mother-in-law, I gradually started zoning out, trying not to think too much. It was probably my body's way of coping with the stress, a defense mechanism against Tom and his mom. Without much thought, I headed to Tom's cafe after work.
The dishes aren't cleaned up at all. Wash and put them away. After that, clean the stove, sink, and counter. Then sweep the floor.
Exhausted from work, I staggered over to wash the dishes. It seemed there was still a lot to do for closing up.
Was it busy today? Or did someone not show up suddenly? Shut up! Just start cleaning. You won't get any pocket money. I don't need it. You'll regret it. You're gonna be drowning in debt soon. Better make some money while you can.
Tom started prepping for the next day while I washed the dishes beside him. We didn't talk, and the only sounds were the clattering of dishes and Tom chopping and mixing ingredients. After a while, Tom went to close out the register. Having finished the tasks he assigned, I approached him at the register.
I'm done. Can I go home now? Oh! You scared me! I didn't hear you.
Sorry. Never mind. Here, take this. In my exhausted state, I must have moved quietly, surprising Tom. He handed me $40 from the register and shooed me away with a flick of his wrist, like I was a stray dog. Seeing that Tom's work would take a while longer, I silently left the cafe alone. But my work wasn't over yet.
Finally back. As the daughter-in-law,
you can at least do the dishes, right? I'm going to bed now. Take care of the rest. My mother-in-law said what she wanted and then briskly walked to her room. It was already past 2 a.m. She had stayed up just to scold me upon my return. The sink was overflowing not just with dishes but also with frying pans and pots. Judging by the amount, it seemed there were dishes from breakfast and lunch as well. I sighed and started washing up. Once done, I took a bath and got about 3 hours of sleep before heading to work. Lately, with everything going on and work being so demanding, my mind and body were both worn out. But I kept telling myself that this situation would only last a few more days. 3 days later, I finally had the chance to tell Tom the truth. Feeling a rare sense of relief, I headed home, only to find Tom and my mother-in-law waiting for me at the living room table on his day off. They both stared at me with such cold eyes that I froze at the entrance, a bad feeling washing over me. This kind of bad feeling often turn out to be accurate. Divorce me.
What? Why?
Why? Didn't I tell you before? If you're not the CEO anymore, we divorce. I overheard the employees talking again. Something about the company going under and some of them planning to jump ship. I married you because you were a CEO. It felt like I was hearing Tom's true feelings for the first time.
Wait, you married me because I was a CEO. You're kidding, right?
No, I'm serious. Otherwise, I wouldn't have married someone as plain as you.
What?
Marrying a CEO gives me a good image and maybe some help if the business goes bad. But without those benefits, there's no point in staying with an older woman like you. That's right. If the company goes under, Tom will be the one suffering. Do him a favor and divorce him before causing any more trouble. My mother-in-law joined in. Seeing them smirking together, my desire to clear up the misunderstanding vanished instantly. Oh, and since the company's going under, you're moving out of this building, right? Help me talk to the real estate agent. I want to see if I can negotiate to rent just this place. Maybe I can get the rent down from $10,000. It seemed Tom wanted to stay here with his mom and kick me out. While divorce was exactly what I wanted, I decided to tell him the truth simply. What? The rent is $100,000. That's not going to change. Are you stupid? It's common to rent out buildings floor by floor. If I negotiate, I can rent just this place. Trying to mess with me is pointless. Tom looked at me with a smug expression, thinking he'd suppressed my last-ditch effort. My mother-in-law had the same look. Tom had mentioned divorcing if I lost my CEO title before, but I thought it was just his frustration talking. However, Tom truly demanded a divorce from me. Now that he was serious, there was no going back. His change in attitude was clearly tied to his belief that the company was failing. After hearing the employees talk, he saw no use for me and showed his true colors. Realizing this, I decided to tell him the truth. Seeing me quietly listening, Tom seemed to think he was in control and placed the divorce papers on the table. I've got the papers ready. You'll sign them, right? Of course. I picked up the pen and started signing while continuing the conversation with Tom. Let me tell you the truth before we finish this. What? What's the truth? Is this your last desperate attempt? Will you just listen? You're right, my company is moving out of this building. So the business was doing badly after all. Make sure you introduce me to the real estate agent when you move out. Sure, but you can't afford the $100,000 rent, can you? Are you still going on about that? I'm only renting this third-floor residential space. You have no idea about the terms of the lease, do you? What? Negotiation can fix things like that. No, it can't. The lease condition is to rent the entire building. What? I calmly explained the leasing terms. When I leased this building, I was told that the owner required it to be rented as a whole because accessing the residential floor means passing through the office space. At the time, I had no plans to marry, and it was ideal for an office, so I took it. So, there's no room for negotiation? That's right. So I can only rent the whole building?
Exactly.
And the rent is $100,000. There's no way I can manage that. This place was perfect, centrally located, and close to my shop.
Seeing Tom's disappointed expression, my mother-in-law quickly jumped in. It doesn't have to be this place. Tom makes $30,000 a month, right? You can find another place nearby. She firmly believed in her son's supposed income, suggesting he could easily find another similar rental in the city. Tom's pale face told a different story. Your mother believes you can do it, but can you?
What do you mean? Of course, he can. Tom makes $30,000 a month.
I couldn't help but laugh at her words.
What's so funny?
You still haven't figured it out. He doesn't make $30,000 a month.
What? But Tom's earnings are real. I knew he liked to show off, but even if he exaggerated a bit, he still makes close to that, right? No need to nitpick.
True, about 6 months ago, he might have made around $20,000 a month.
See?
But now, it's closer to $10,000.
What? How do you know that?
I helped with closing several times, remember? I saw the daily journals when you were closing the register. As a business owner, I can estimate the revenue based on the sales. The drop started when you gave your mom the key, around the same time the new place opened across the street, right?
Ugh.
That place took your customers, didn't it? Every time I visited your cafe, I noticed the bigger, nicer place across the street, with a more extensive menu. It was featured in the media a lot when it opened.
That's just because the new store is novel. The crowds will die down soon enough. Besides, earning $10,000 a month is still impressive.
Yes, $10,000 a month is a respectable income. But business isn't that simple. Customers who leave don't come back easily. Reality is, sales will likely keep dropping. It takes money to win back customers. Tom's place is in a prime location, so the rent is high. Unlike a big chain, you can't just wait patiently for customers to return. The store will go under quickly. My mother-in-law turned pale and urgently spoke to Tom.
Tom, you still plan to keep living in this $10,000 apartment even now, right? You must have a plan to turn things around.
There's no plan, is there? That's why you rushed to move in with your mom, isn't it? When I looked at Tom, he awkwardly avoided my gaze. It seemed my guess was right. Mother, you know Tom likes to show off and has a lot of pride. He knew his business was in trouble and wrongly assumed my company was too. So, he had you move in to help support him and to kick me out.
What does that have to do with me moving in?
Tom's income is around $10,000 a month now. Paying rent leaves no money for living expenses. Someone needs to cover those costs. He thought I'd lose my CEO title and brought you here to support him. You've been buying groceries and supplies, haven't you?
Well, I'm living here, so that's only natural.
But you weren't asked by Tom to buy those, were you? After the divorce, you'd probably end up paying the utilities too.
I was just doing it out of goodwill.
That was the plan all along. And when Tom boldly declared he'd give me $10,000 for rent, he realized he couldn't manage without additional money. That's why the cohabitation plan came up suddenly.
Tom, the store's not really in trouble, right? You decided to move in together because you were worried about me, right? You don't need my support, right?
My mother-in-law shook Tom's shoulders, looking for reassurance. Tom remained expressionless as she shook him. Tom was probably trying to figure out how to protect his pride and image, knowing his business was in trouble and that he had invited his mother for financial support. After a moment, his eyes regained some life. As if he had found a good excuse.
What about you? Sure, my store is struggling, but at least I still have it. Your company is going under. Clearly, your situation is worse.
Tom was trying to shift the focus away from himself. But this would only backfire on him. My company is closing, yes. But it's not going bankrupt, it's merging.
What do you mean? My company is a tech firm specializing in AI and embedded systems. A larger company wants our technology, so it's a merger and acquisition. So, what about what I heard from the employees? We're merging into the other company. Our employees will work there. Those who don't want to are getting help finding new jobs. That's probably what you overheard. You've got to be kidding! Why didn't you tell the employees earlier? An M&A is a critical secret. It's normal not to tell anyone until the deal is almost done. Only the top management knew until it was finalized. It's already been announced internally. By the way, I'm planning to start another company. But for now, I'll work as a freelancer. I've been investing in real estate too, so I don't need to work for a while. I'll be stepping back from running a company for a bit. Realizing his mistake, Tom looked extremely flustered. I taunted him by holding up the signed divorce papers and waving them slightly. Hey! You're right! My store sales have been plummeting. Oh really? This is serious! I need your help! That's not my problem. We're about to be strangers. You can use the money you gave me for rent. Thank you! How much did I give you? Around $100,000? We'll split it in the divorce, so you'll get $50,000. $50,000? That'll be gone in 2 or 3 months. Which means you have 2 or 3 months to figure things out. It's the perfect time to make an exit. Please, help me! If this goes on, I'll be known as the guy who failed in business. Even in this situation, Tom was still worried about his pride and image. Pride and appearances are important for a business owner, but when overblown, they can lead to failure. I learned something valuable from Tom. I'll hold on to these divorce papers for now. What? You're not in a state to file them properly. We'll discuss the details later. Since this was my house, I quickly kicked Tom and his mother out. They pleaded through the door, but when I threatened to call the police, they left immediately. Shortly after, Tom and I got divorced. Tom moved in with his mother, but once she realized how his pride and vanity had caused so many problems, their relationship soured. Tom was no longer her pride and joy. Not long after, Tom's store closed, leaving the space vacant. When I mentioned that it might be the right time to quit, Tom stubbornly tried to keep the business running. He borrowed money from various places to keep the store afloat, but eventually, he couldn't recover and ended up deep in debt. Tom fell into a typical downward spiral. To outsiders, it might seem absurd that he tried to keep the store open for so long. However, business owners often fight to the bitter end, unwilling to give up. Tom ended up with over $200,000 in debt, moved out from his mother's place, and now rents a cheap apartment while working part-time in a restaurant. As soon as his store failed, his mother abandoned him. Tom now works under younger employees, and his pride from owning his own business has been utterly shattered. As for me, I'm working freelance in a new environment, enjoying a stress-free life. I plan to start a rental business soon, and look forward to this new chapter with